The last day before vacations. It was June 9th last year. In first period English, my teacher let us all off the hook, and instead, we chilled. My friends and I were very excited to go on vacation, and even I had plans to visit Miami. So, the next period comes history, and the cycle repeats. Until sixth period, computer. I was on the tip of my seat the whole 30 minutes waiting for the bell to ring. Suddenly, the fire alarm rang, startling us all. The PA announcement called out,
"This is a lockdown. I repeat, this is now a lockdown. Teachers, please lock all doors and don't let anyone out. We have received word from the LAPD that there was an armed suspect snooping around the neighborhood. Students, please remain calm and seated."
Our first reactions were,
"What the hell? I got a flight at 4 o'clock. Really, police? It's the last day of school and you issue a lockdown?"
Some people were actually amusing.
"Fuck the police. Just let me out and I'll whoop that gangster's ass for ruining our summer vacation."
No offense. It wasn't that terrifying. Only some kids were actually scared or praying to God. My teacher, Mr. Sanchez, was trying to get us to play some games on the laptops, but we were all hungry because most of us didn't eat lunch. So Mr. Sanchez called the main office about the situation. They replied having said, "All right then, we'll send some police officers to the classroom with some food and drinks." So we had food, water, and basically a career day presentation, being done by the cop. And it was pretty chill. At last, the suspect was arrested, and we all cheered. But we had to wait a whopping 3 hours just for the police to get a hold of the situation. So it was about 5 o'clock. As our parents were close to having a heart attack, the suspect was contained in the car. We all wanted the suspect to feel guilty about our vacation, so we did some things like shaking our heads, pointing the middle finger, or pointing at him. And it was a bad start to the summer vacation. The Crazy Gunman. Back in 2007, when I was in 5th period class, it was a normal day. Everyone was going to their normal classes and such. It couldn't have been better. Until around 3:10, the assistant principal said in a loud, panicked voice,
"Everyone, please get into a hard lockdown formation. Hard lockdown."
At our school, they never let you know if it was a drill or not. So if there was a fire drill, kids didn't care and slowly walked out, talking and talking and talking. Then they would get yelled at, but that's the best part. So everyone, including the teachers, assumed it was a drill. It seemed like I was the only one who was worried or noticing that we were supposed to leave in 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, that was the most terrifying noise I had ever heard. It was a noise that I heard every day at the same time, in the same place. After it rung, I usually smiled because school was over. Not this time. This time, I looked around at the sea of terrified faces. I could practically read their minds. They were thinking, "What the fuck? This isn't a drill." Even my teacher had that look on his face. All of my peers were stuck in the same crowded corner until 5. At 5, we got an announcement on the intercom that said,
"You can now transition into a soft lockdown drill."
Because we were in school, we still had no idea what was happening outside. The teachers didn't even know. So, after that announcement, a whole bunch of curious 12-year-olds, myself included, rushed to the window to get a clue of what was happening. All we saw was a whole bunch of emergency vehicles and news helicopters outside. Great. That made me feel so much better. At 6 o'clock, we left and heard the news. Apparently, there was a crazy gunman outside of our school. The man was caught, and we were all safe. I will still remember that day for the rest of my life. Mr. Anderson getting shot. It was summer 2003, a normal Wednesday in my school. Gunshots erupted in the hallways during the transition from first to second period. Just as the first few shots echoed, the principal's shaky voice declared lockdown over the intercom. That was not a drill. Students dropped their backpacks and sprinted for their lives, diving into classrooms, whilst all teachers locked their doors and turned off the lights, ushering students under the desks. Being teenagers, the students had naturally believed themselves to be immortal. Now, they all held back tears. That was the first time they'd ever truly feared for their lives. Two panicked students barreled around a corner, then slid to a stop. A teacher's urgent whisper grabbing their attention. "Annie, Melissa, get in here," Mr. Anderson called them. The students rushed into the room with Mr. Anderson, the drama teacher, crying and trembling with fear. "It's gonna be okay. Don't worry," Mr. Anderson said. It appeared he'd been shot, for he was clutching his leg as it bled. He let go of his leg to hold Annie tightly, trying to console her. Melissa joining the hug, clinging to him tightly. "Everything's gonna be okay," Mr. Anderson repeated to them. "You'll be fine." The girls almost believed him, until he let go of them and took some steps back. They looked at him confused, but then Melissa's jaw slowly dropped, unable to scream. Annie's eyes widened, tears slowly escaping her eyes and moving down her face. Mr. Anderson smiled at the girls as he pulled a pistol from his pocket. His leg was fine. It was covered in fake blood. His smile never left his face as he racked the slide back. Freshman year of high school. It was 2013. My dad got transferred, so we had to go into another city with him. Now, I'm in a new school, 30 minutes away from my hometown. Pretty much all cities of my county go to this school, and we have about 4 school buses. We have a secondary building for other classes. As I moved here from a small school, things were pretty different here, or I might say, too regulated. I felt suffocated because of too much organized stuff around me. In my second week, I was in trouble for something that day. Sitting in the guidance office while guilt rushed through my cold gut, the guidance counselor suddenly became tense. Door shut, locked. It was a lockdown. I spent the rest of my day in that office, stewing in my guilt and anxiety. Next thing I knew, the police and security guards were patting down every student and using a metal detector. One by one, kids were sent to the buses where we waited for another 45 minutes in the heat. Cafeteria lunch ladies wheeled carts of snacks for the kids who never got their lunch period due to the lockdown. It was all over the news, and considering our school was right next door to the jail, everybody was afraid somebody had escaped. We went home when it turned out it was a false alarm. Some kid had dropped their vintage Civil War-era bullet shell in the secondary school hallway, and the school freaked out. It was scary, but I'm sure we would have been okay. By Toad Sport. Yup, when I was in first year, I was sitting in math class, third last period of the day. Double art or DT or some piss-easy class to finish a nice warm March day. about 15 minutes into the class, we were jolted out of our math-induced coma by that sound. The classroom was situated at the top of this old staircase, which amplified the sound, which also happened to have emanated from just off the bottom of the staircase in an adjacent hallway. The teacher told us to stay in our seats and walked to the next class to find out what the crack was with the aforementioned bang. It was then announced over the intercom that all students were to remain in their class for the rest of the day, about another 90 minutes or so. We spent the rest of the day up there doing our homework and speculating what the fuck that sound had been. When the end of the day came, we were escorted to the buses. Usually, we could walk down unattended on a long detour around the school, whereas we could normally have made the journey in 30 seconds. This one took 2 minutes. First sign of trouble was seeing 3 marked police cars at the front of the school. Second sign was seeing 2 officers with MP5 submachine guns standing by one of the main student entrances. The third and final and most damning sign of trouble was the fact that of the 4 large pane glass windows to some of the front-facing classes, 2 had shattered completely. On the bus home, further speculation suggested it had been a bomb. Others said it was a massive firework of some kind. Some of my friends had been closer to the source of the explosion and said one of the teachers had a breakdown later on. The next day, the windows had been repaired, but an area of the school was still damaged. There had been lockers beside a small set of stairs and double doors in front of the steps. The doors were splintered and the lockers were no longer there. It eventually emerged that the source of the explosion had been quite a large firework, which the school seniors had fashioned a time-delayed fuse, somehow using cigarettes or something that allowed them to detonate it when there would be no one in the vicinity. I had actually forgotten about this incident until I saw the title of this thread, and all the memories flooded back there now. These were some real incidents associated with school lockdowns. If you've got similar incidents, share it with us as we're looking forward to featuring your story in it. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Do click the bell icon to get the notifications of latest updates.